Hey everybody, this is Way to Fail, and Curse of Naxxramas, the first expansion for Hearthstone, is finally here. The cards have been revealed. This is a 31 card expansion. Some people would say that's not a lot. Other people would say it's quality, not quantity. And today I want to talk a bit about the quality of the cards. Specifically, I've gone through and over a series of videos. I've rated the cards from first to worst. Now keep in mind that rankings are like anything else are opinion based, and if you have an opinion, you're welcome to sound off on the comments here. Let me put it this way, Naxxramas introduces some real clunkers and introduces some cards that are really going to change things in the Hearthstone metagame, and I am totally fine with that. So let's go ahead and start with the worst first. Number 31, the Stoneskin Gargoyle. Oh boy. It's 3 mana, and it's a 1/4. It's not even a taunt. It's not even anything else. It is instead something that at the end of your turn, it comes back to full health. Now keep in mind, this is at the end of your turn, not at the end of each turn. What that means essentially is that this thing's probably going to die to a lot of things, and you're not going to get a ton of value because it only has 1 attack. It's just compared to other cards, really lackluster. Not a lot to it. According to devs, if you do play Soul Priest, if you're a priest, this heal will actually kill the card, so that's not great. So that's 31. If you get this card from Adventure Mode, and you will inevitably, you're probably not going to play it. Hope you don't draft it in Arena. Number 30. Shade of Naxxramas, and some people may be surprised to see that this card's on here because on paper it looks pretty good. It's kind of like a mini Gruul. It's stealth, so it gets to stay hidden, and it can get +1/+1 over time. Eventually could become very strong. But my beefs with this card are a few, and it makes me think back to the rogue card Patient Assassin, which I know a 1/1 stealth is a lot easier to remove than a 2/2 stealth that gains 1/1 at the start of each turn, but this card has to sit to grow, and it can possibly do something essentially, but it is not a very good tempo play. And Hearthstone is becoming more and more, especially with this release, is going to be more of a game of actually controlling the tempo, and Shade just kind of asks you to sit back on turn 4, turn 5, and try and let this power up. So I don't really like the card very much, but like I said, if you disagree, comments are down below. Feel free to let me know what you think. Number 29, we have the first of the class cards to appear on this list, and it's Avenge. Now, if you look at the effect, giving a friendly minion 3/2 looks great in theory, until you remember that secrets were recently, I guess not that recently anymore, changed to no longer work on your turn. That means you cannot trade in a minion, activate the ability on your turn, and then kind of control where it goes. For all you could be stuck with is your opponent gets to dictate the pace where it goes, and possibly if your board gets cleared and there's no friendly minions to give this to, the secret could just go kabuff or kaput without really any value or anything like that. So 3/2 is a really nice buff, but due to the inability to control it on your turn, this is ranked number 29. If you could do secrets on your turn, this card would be much, much higher. 28, Wailing Soul, or is what I've seen some people like to call the Awakener of the Ancient Watchers, because it silences your other minions. Note that this isn't a master spell with all minions, and the 3/5 for 4 is fine stat-wise, but you don't always want to silence your minions. This is a card that can be good, but the reason it's ranked so low is because it's pretty situational. You gotta kind of combo it with other cards. Typically, you don't want to silence your own minions, especially in an expansion like this that has a ton of death rattles. Now, there's some cards, as you'll see here later on, that maybe you don't want the effect to be given to your opponent, especially if it's something that could be a net positive for them. But you also don't want to have your Sylvanas or your Karn or anything else just not activated anymore. So it's a card that can work in conjunction in theory, but because it kind of relies on other cards and is by itself just a 4/3/5, it's kind of down. It's just down here. Like I said, I'm not too high on it. Number 27, Undertaker. This card is saved by the fact that it's a 1/1/2, because it can be comboed with other things, but once again, it's just kind of a combo card. You have to play it with something else, or it's just going to be pretty bad stats. But if you can play it and then summon a few other death rattle minions on the same turn or another turn later, this can be good. This can actually survive pretty well. The 2 health does mean it will survive hero powers, but 2 also means it's very easy to remove. So this is a card that you may be able to trade up with, but you got to rely on getting a good hand and getting a hand with death rattles. So maybe turn 1 Undertaker, turn 2 Loot Hoarder, and you get a 1 mana 2/3. It's possible, but like I said, at 27 is just, it relies on other cards, and sometimes you don't get those draws, and then you have a clunker in your hand. So that's why this card is down here. Still has some potential for value, but you're not always going to get it. Number 26, and this is one that I think is going to raise some hackles in terms of my rankings, Deathlord. Yeah, I have this one ranked pretty low compared to what I've seen some other people try and say here, because it is 3 mana, and it's 10 stats for 3 mana. The Death Rattle is putting a minion from your opponent's deck onto the battlefield. Now, that is kind of the catch here, because, I mean, it's random. You could get an Argent Squire, but you could also get a gigantic creature just on turn 3, turn 4, turn 5. The worst thing you're going to see, and I imagine we're going to be seeing a lot more Kodo play in the days to come, the weeks to come, as the Naxxramas cards come out, is that essentially this card, it could just be a free kill from a Kodo, a free kill from a Shadow Word Pain, or hell, even a Black Knight if you play it a little bit too late. But the benefit could outweigh it. Now, I can see why people would play this, especially in something like a Zoo. 8 health is a lot to get through. 8 health on turn 3 is a lot to get through, but the last thing you want is a Molten Giant on the other side of this card gets out in time. So that drawback, because your opponent doesn't even have to spend any mana, it can just get a creature out whenever. That's the beef I have with this card. It's good, don't get me wrong. If you're trying to control some board presence early, this can be worth it, but there's a pretty big catcher string attached to it. 25, Dancing Swords. Another card that actually gives your opponent a pretty nice benefit here, which is when it dies, your opponent draws a card. I guess that's why you get 8 stats for 3 mana here, because it is pretty strong, but the opponent card draw, it's the same reason I don't play Naturalize or anything. Giving your opponents more cards when you can't really mill deck or anything like this is essentially making you're losing card advantage. If you can trade 2 cards for the Dancing Swords, then yeah, you're kind of equal on card advantage. But you don't want to just play a card and you're down a card, and then your opponent does something that cycles or plays a weapon that like a true Silver Champion, which will only take 1 charge to take this out. I mean, then at that point you're just kind of down cards, and the more you lose at your card advantage in Hearthstone, the worse things are going to look for you over the course of the match. And so this could be kind of a good rush play if you do want a good 4/4 turn 3, but that's why it's 25. It's just the drawback's kind of nasty. 24, Duplicate. Duplicate's a card that I've seen some people really love and I've seen some people really hate. Once again, it would be a lot better if you could activate secrets on your own turn. But because you can't, your Blood Elf Dance Party that's on the cover here is not going to be doing too much. Now, the value in it comes from the fact that your opponent's probably going to be expecting some other secret to come out, such as Ice Block, such as Ice Barrier. And oftentimes for mage decks, you're either going to have your aggro mage that spawns a lot of things all at once, or freeze mages that don't play very much at all, or giants mages that when they do play things, it's high value, high toughness creatures. So getting this out, when it's a friendly minion out, it can put 2 in your hand. That can be good, but if it's 2 mountain giants in your hand, I mean, that can potentially be good, but if you get 2 mountain giants in your hand later on, you know how bad that can be. So this is kind of a card that's really swingy. It can be good if you can get it to work, but there's no guarantee that you'll be able to. So 24, I feel like it's the right place. And this is, like I said, the rankings are not necessarily the order of this card's exactly better than this card, exactly better than this card. You can have some pretty good swings of this, but you kind of got to hit it. And one very important thing, if you're looking for long-term success in Hearthstone, is consistency, and this card is not very consistent. 23, Nerub-ar Weblord. Spitting out that nice spider webbing there, which is actually canceling out people's battle cries. Think of it like a mana worm, except instead of every creature costing 2 more, creatures with battle cries cost 2 more. Now that sounds good if you're trying to slow down your opponent. Some of the best cards in the game play battle cries. But the problem is that some of the best cards play battle cries, and it also kind of slows you down depending on what you're playing. So this is going to work out better for some decks than others, but I think the most important thing is that, once again, it's not going to fit in every deck. It can be good. 2-1-4 is not my favorite stat line at all. This is really a slow down, try and control your opponent. But it slows you down too, and I think that's the beef that I have with the card. So 23. 22, Mad Scientist. We were talking before about how secrets can kind of be weird. Maybe they work, maybe they don't. And 2/2/2 is just as terrible as Crazed Alchemist. So that's easily killed, not very good to work with. But it also puts a secret from your deck into the battlefield. That's nice. That's free mana that you don't have to spend. And if you play very few secrets, or if you only play 2 secrets, you can predict very well what you get. Now, unfortunately, you could also be playing Hunter wanting to save your misdirects for later at the game in a critical turn, and it just drops a misdirect. So you can't always control it. But still, this is a decent card because it does give you free secrets, which is nice, especially if you can plan on what you get. Still, though, 22 seems appropriate. Not usable in every deck, especially decks that don't have secrets. Still pretty decent. And then 21, the last one on this list for today, Sludge Belcher. I like this card. Yes, it's 5 for a 3/5, essentially a 3/5 taunt, so you have your Taz Dingo right there. But when it dies, it summons another taunt. Now, this is good on 2 fronts. On the one hand, it is 4/7 worth of stats for 5 mana. That's fine. That's totally fine. The other thing, though, is that if people are trying to push through your taunts to try and attack you, this gives an additional taunt to actually get in. So that can really slow down. Say, this is a good barrier for like Miracle and Leroy, or any number of charge down, mega kill, Savage Roar, Force of Nature combos. This is a nice wall to put up because it's a double taunt. So I do like that. And I think that's a decent card to end on here. Like I said, just because these are at the bottom of the list doesn't mean they're bad, doesn't mean they're unplayable. I just don't think they're as good or as more universally easier to throw in the decks than some of the cards that are above it. But Curse of Naxxramas is here. I'm excited. I hope you are too. But that's it for now. This is Way to Fail. You can catch me on Twitch. I stream Hearthstone along with other games. You're catching me on YouTube right now, so hey, welcome. You're welcome to subscribe. Or check me out on Twitter as well. But I hope you found this informative, or at least interesting. If you have your own thoughts on the cards on this list, feel free to post them. The rest of the rankings are going to be coming out today as well, so you'll be able to see the whole list. That's it for now. Hope you enjoyed it. This is Way to Fail. See you next time.